Hey, beautiful people. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. I hope you all have enjoyed your holiday season as it's coming to a close. For a lot of us, we're back to work or going back to work soon. And yeah, I wanted to say Happy New Year. So I'm excited about today's live because this is really important as we're all going into another season. Some of us started creating our goals and the things that we wanted to see happen this year months ago. Some of us just started yesterday. Some of us haven't started at all. And so all of that is fine. At the end of the day, I really desire to do this session because I think it's really important for us to consider what does it mean to truly be committed, right? Like staying committed to you and staying committed to what's important to you this year is, a no simple thing to do. It is layered when you're talking about how to stay committed because, to be real, we've all decided that we wanted to do something, air quotes, and still have not seen it come to pass. And so I think it's really important that we really hone in on what is going to help us stay committed to the things that we desire to see in this upcoming year, and really be brutally honest with ourselves if there are things that we have said we want to be committed to in the past and we're deciding to take it on again, and really evaluate what hesitated me, what kept me from actually following through in times past, so that you could start tackling that head on versus being in this cycle of continuously having this word vomit of I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, you just watch, and not dealing with the things that are keeping you from actually accomplishing it. So if you haven't heard of me or if you don't know who I am Desiree Cocroft. I am an executive life and leadership coach, and even better, I am your Get Your Life coach. I wrote a book called Get Your Life Today, 7 Success Hacks for Life, Leadership, and Business. And I have trained thousands of professionals, leaders, executives, and specifically, I love coaching women that are high achieving, that are a lot like me, someone that has been a business owner, someone that has also worked a 9 to 5. And recently, I have jumped off my 9 to 5 to pursue coaching, consulting, and speaking full time. I'm an author, I'm a keynote speaker, all the things. And I have a really big passion to see people live to develop their fullest potential in their personal lives and their professional lives. I want to see you earn abundantly, not have a cap on what you believe is available to you, to lead boldly, being able to overcome people pleasing. I'm a recovering people pleaser. To be able to see yourself having the boundaries that are necessary so that you can live a life that is on your terms, doing what you truly desire to do. And so, as I start talking about this, if you're jumping on, feel free to throw something in the chat. I would love to know where you are watching from. And I love to hear from people. So, go ahead and put in the chat, like, hey, Des, this is where I'm at. And Happy New Year. Happy New Year to anyone that is watching today. But feel free to drop in the chat. We'd love to know where you are watching from and how you are doing. Feel free to show some love. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So, one way to really stay committed to you is to actually know what you want. So this is really important because I think knowing what you actually desire is important. I think we think we know what we desire because we are so used to doing goals or saying that we want something and not really digging deeper into it. And I think it's really important to consider, well, what do you actually want? And so I've had the opportunity to coach a few people over the last couple of days, just because we were getting into the new year. And it's fun for me to help people figure out what they want to do with their lives. And every time someone tells me this is something that they desire to do, for instance, it could say, hey, I really desire to come off of my job, or I really desire to be in another space in my industry. So maybe I don't want to come off of 9 to 5, but maybe I desire to go into a different industry, a different area, a different company, what have you. Or some people had desires to, really kick off their passion project or something that was aligned with entrepreneurialism. Is that a word? An entrepreneurial effort. So some people were really excited about doing those things. So anytime someone tells me that they want to commit to a thing, I'm always asking, well, what is it that you really want from that? So everything that we desire to pursue is to obtain a feeling. You desire something at a granular level, something on the inside that you want from a thing. It's not just the thing itself, it's something that you desire. So people desire to be in a committed relationship or a marriage because they desire love, they desire acceptance, they desire security. There's so many reasons why, right? And so the same thing is true with whatever else you are looking to pursue. I'm always going to ask, what is it that you truly desire? What is the driving force for that? It's essentially what's your why. But here's the thing. Sometimes when you ask yourself what's your why, you'll say things like, oh, it's so I can make more money. It's for kids. It's for my family to feel secure. We'll say a lot of things, but I want you to get to an emotional level of what you desire, because that is really the driving force of what you desire. Because when you realize what, from an emotional level, a feeling level that you desire, you're more likely to commit to that, because there's something in you that wants that feeling to occur. And I think it's very important for us to bring that feeling to our conscious mind, because then it helps to drive us. So for instance, I was working with a friend over the weekend. She desires to really leave off of the job that she's in right now. And what I really was asking was like, okay, well, what is it that you really want though? You say you desire to leave your job, but what is it that you really desire? And after some time and after some talking, she said peace. I desire peace. And so I'm like, oh, okay, we're getting somewhere now because peace can be obtained even if you're in your position. It doesn't mean you actually have to leave. So sometimes getting down to that emotional level could help you really redefine or refine what you actually desire to commit to once you realize, oh, what I really desire is peace. And it's like, well, what could that look like? Because this person, as well as anyone else, you can still remain at a position and find peace because you start creating boundaries. You start telling people no. You start doing things in a way so that you can feel peace at work. You stop having water cooler conversations. There's so many ways that you can still have peace without leaving the job. But sometimes we're too afraid to do the things. And it's like, let's not skip that. Let's get really bold and do the things that will take for us to obtain peace. Or it might mean you need to leave your job. But my whole point is, the more you can connect at an emotional level of what you actually desire, that's going to help you clarify, refine, and be more committed to the thing that you desire to do in the upcoming year, or whatever season that you desire to, switch up for yourself. So I want you to think about, what is it emotionally? What is the feeling I desire from this goal? Is it peace? Is it balance? Is it an overall feeling of fulfillment? What is the reason that has you committed to a specific goal, so that you can start embodying the feeling that you actually desire from accomplishing said goal? And as a result, it will help you refine your goal even more. Or you might decide to change, rearrange that goal to be something different once you realize, oh, what I'm really looking for is balance. What I'm really looking for is peace. What I'm really looking for is security. Those things will help you really commit to what it is that you desire to happen at a deeper level than saying, oh, I want to find another job. But your feelings are not being dealt with. You emotionally are not dealing with it. And so the likelihood that you're going to do it, you might. And if you do it, you might still have unresolved things that you're taking with you into that accomplished goal. So for instance, when people say that they want to leave their job, that's common, or what have you. Some people will leave in a state of bitterness, a state of disdain, and they'll take that same energy into their next position versus dealing with their own stuff. And so I think it's important for you to deal with your own stuff and really articulate what is it that you desire, and start feeling and changing those thoughts and feelings right now versus waiting for something to happen in order for those feelings, thoughts, and things to change within you. So really committing to, who do you desire to be? What is it that you're really committed to? Be a person that feels peaceful, that feels balanced, that feels whatever. All of these things are going to help you commit to you when you know what you desire to feel. So when I left my full-time job in December of last year, the reason I left is because I desired to feel more freedom freedom of time, I also wanted to feel a more balance. I felt like I was putting so much of my time, energy, and such into what I was doing that I didn't feel like I had enough of that for my personal life. I felt like I was really up against the wall. And so that was the motivator. But to be real with you all, and that's what I'm here to do, I did not leave my job having those same feelings years before, because at the end of the day, there were things that I could do to still feel that balance, that freedom, that peace while working there. And so I'm so glad that I stayed, realizing that there were things that I could do to allow me to still feel those things while working there. When I left, it was just because I was no longer willing to keep doing those things. And I realized that there were ways that I could up level my income. And so that was really my motivator for leaving, is like, hey, I'm at a cap of income in this space. And so the only way that I can exceed my income is to have a side hustle, which I did. And I earned $79,000 in my side hustle while working full time. But I'm like, I also desire to have more time for myself and have that balance. So I decided to make my side hustle my main hustle. And I don't like to use the word hustle, but I do that because that's what people resonate with. But it's a side business because I don't believe in that hustle life. This has been my softest year. If you've been following me on LinkedIn, this has been 2024 was my softest year yet. So I do believe in that soft work life. So anyway, with that being said, I'm so glad that I didn't leave prematurely, even though many of you might be the same way. If you're anything like me, you probably be the same way. You know, you're in your job and you're frustrated with being busy and feeling like you're in a hamster wheel. And I felt like that. And I kept saying like, oh, I need to leave. I need to leave. I need to leave. But no, what I needed to do was calm down, use my vacation time, because that's what it's for, to reset. And I needed to be brave. I needed to be bold. I needed to say, no, I'm not going to pick a state tomorrow just because someone canceled. I'm not doing that because I've already been gone for 2 weeks and I haven't slept in my own bed. Nope, not doing it. I was afraid to do those things. And so I'm so glad I decided to stay so I can really up level my tendency to be in people pleaser mode. And so not up level the people pleaser mode, but up level dealing with it, right? Because if I would have left, I would have took that into my business. I would have been saying yes to clients that I didn't want to work with. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you know that I said no to a 6-figure opportunity and no sweat off my back. I'm telling you all, when I was presented with the opportunity, I was shaking because I knew it was something I did not desire to do. And it was going to put me in survival mode. And I was like, nope, I can't do this. And I said no. And I only think that that was possible because I learned to have healthy boundaries. I learned to overcome people pleasing. I learned to not look for external validation as often, because that's still a work in progress, while I was working full time. So me staying on the job because I loved my work. But as I said, a lot of times you can love something and it can still stress you the heck out. How many of you have families and husbands and wives and children and parents and all the things? And it's like, oh, I love them, but they stress me out, right? So you can still have a position. You can still have a business that you love and it is stressing you out. Does that mean you need to leave it? No, I think the hardest thing sometimes is that we need to change ourselves. And that's the thing that we're not willing to do sometimes. So staying committed to you is a willingness. So I already talked about the first thing. So we get to be willing to commit to something because there is something else that we've uncovered to help us stay committed to it. The other thing is, how can we commit to being a different person? And so I talk a lot with my clients. I talked a lot with people that I work with recently, that we get to step into a being. Who do we desire to be? We get to be open to shifting to a different person. And that doesn't mean a different person overall. You're going to have the personality, you're going to have the essence of who you are, but you get to also take the essence of who you are into different habits, different behaviors, so that you can experience a different level of success. So if you desire to stay committed to you, how committed are you to investing in shifting into a new you? Shifting into a new you is what's going to actually help you be committed to what you said you wanted. Because whatever you desire right now, whatever you say you desire, I'm going to assume it's something you have not obtained yet. Because if you obtained it in this way, right? Because for instance, I've had a sense of peace and balance and freedom before, right? It had a different picture. It had a different medium. I had that in different ways. At one point, I was the executive director of my nonprofit dance company that me and two friends started over 20 years ago. And I had a lot of freedom being the executive director for that organization. So I've had times in my life where I felt like I had the freedom and the capacity to do things the way I desire, like I do now. At the same time, there's always something more that we desire. And so, how can I have freedom and balance in the container of what I desire now? Right. And so, that's going to have me shift differently in the type of business that I have now as a coach and consultant. I get to decide what I desire to operate like in the things that I desire right now, and not be so concerned about whether it looks like what everybody else wants. So staying committed to you in 2025 has a lot to do with who are you willing to shift into being. And so this past year, 2024, taught me a lot about coming back to myself. Who do I desire to be? How do I desire to show up? And am I willing to do it, to trust the voice that I hear and take action on that, versus being so caught up into what everybody else is doing? I'm not being true to myself and no longer being committed to obtaining my goals the way that reigns with me, what resonates with me. And so if you desire to have the goals accomplished that you desire to have this year, what are you willing to shift into being? Are you willing to hold up your boundaries, literally articulate what you desire to people? You can have boundaries all day long. I was working with a client earlier this year, and they were saying, I have boundaries, and they're listing all these boundaries, right? And so I'm like, well, have you told the people that need to hear that what your boundaries are? And the answer was no. They had not told people what the boundaries were, nor have they kept that constant communication or held people accountable when they didn't keep the boundaries. And that's the thing, right? If you don't articulate it, if you don't hold people accountable to what you say you desire, then you don't have boundaries, in my opinion. If nobody knows, you don't have them. How do I know? And so if you are committed to your 2025, you get to be committed to the boundaries that you put in place. And that doesn't mean that you're a mean person. If you're a recovering people pleaser, you probably already are like, because you're concerned about people being mad at you, or people not liking you, or worried about what people think about you. But honestly, people will respect you say something up front than to act like you actually want to do something and you don't. That's manipulative. That's not giving people an idea of knowing who you really are and what you desire. Instead, you're so caught up in desiring to be liked that you're not giving people truly who you are and what you don't desire to do. If you're anything like me, I'm a recovering people pleaser. So I spent a lot of times in life, growing up in a household where I wanted to always keep the peace. Always wanted to be the person that helped lighten up things, right? And so there's a gift in that, right? Positivity is one of my highest strengths according to Strength Finders. So there is positive there, but there is something to be said that sometimes what our gift is, anything all the way to the right and not in balance, really can do us wrong. Because then sometimes I'm so positive, or I can be that way so much that I don't give people a chance to really show their feelings and emotions that need to be shown so that we can have some really healthy relationships and conversations. And so I've had to work through that and be okay with conflict. Be okay that someone might not like it, or maybe somebody might find me the villain in their story for a day. But that helps me get better at communicating boundaries, communicating my intent and my motives, and be okay if somebody doesn't understand it after I've done all that I can do. And that's truly staying committed to what you desire in 2025, because you can't make me believe, I'm telling you right now, anything that you desire to accomplish, you are going to have to tell somebody no. You are going to have to tell somebody, I'm not doing that anymore. You could tell somebody that this is what my focus is. I know we were doing this, but this is what I'm going to be doing now. I actually had to make a really tough decision because of one of my financial goals. One of my business revenue goals is to hit 7 figures this year. And so be able to hit 7 figures this year in a way that feels good, in a way that is aligned to my values, in a way that's aligned to the way I love to live. I get to do that in a certain way. And one of the ways is, Desiree, you can't be having your hands in a whole bunch of stuff if you want to focus on that and you want to do it without being stressed, right? And that's always the goal for me. And so I had to let go of some of the projects that I was going to do this year. And I was super excited about doing it last year, have conversations with people. But I had to have that come to Jesus moment. Like, okay, let's get real with your capacity. Let's get real with what you desire to do. What can you put all of your coals in so that you can build a fire that won't burn you up? And so I had to start saying no. And so that's me being committed to me while also being committed to what outcomes I desire to see this year. And so you get to think about, well, how can I stay committed to what feels good to me? What feels good to me while also staying committed to what the outcomes are? Because here's the thing. I have gotten things in my life, and I'm sure you have too. I've gotten outcomes in my life and still didn't like how I felt after getting to that outcome. It's like you rush. And it's almost like an addiction, right? You get addicted to the adrenaline pump of doing things constantly, being busy to hit this goal, and then you get to the goal and then you're super tired. You're super exhausted. You need an escape from your life, but I always feel like if you need an escape from your life, you need to change your life. Like, some things that we do is really not sustainable, but we do it because we're trying to accelerate things from a place of fear, anxiety, shame. Let me hurry up and do this, external validation, versus just doing it at a pace that comes from exploring, curiosity, things that fulfillment, passion, purpose, and doing things from that place will help you feel good at the end. And so you get to stay committed to you and deciding, how do I want to feel when I'm accomplished in this space? How do I want to feel? What do I want to feel like, right? I want to feel at peace. I want to feel excited. I want to feel enthusiasm. I want to feel balance, even after accomplishing, the goal that I just shared. And so you get to decide what that is. Time is running. So I wanted to make sure you got that. So making sure whatever you desire to do, who are you willing to be? Who are you willing to shift into in order to see that accomplished? And make sure it aligns to what are your true values? What are the feelings that you desire to carry with you as you accomplish this goal? Because that's what you actually want. We have this tangible thing that we're looking at, but we actually desire a feeling, right? And so I want you to consider, what are those feelings? That's going to help you stay committed. Honestly, the next thing is words. So that's what I have. I'm looking at my notes. The next thing is words. So I desire to make 7 figures in my business this year. And so I've been telling myself I am committed. There's a really good book that I think I mentioned this in my last live that my coach, shout out Natalie Bullen, she coached me earlier this year in sales. And she also mentioned the book. It's the Millionaire Mind. And in that book, it talks about, words. And what I really loved hearing is that, wealthy people are committed to being wealthy. And I was like, oh, I like that. So I really just have taken that with everything. You say you desire a different body. Are you committed to having a different body? You say you desire better health. Are you committed to better health? You say you desire to have more wealth, more money, more income. Are you committed to that? You say you desire to pay off debt. Are you committed to that? You say you desire to, have a promotion and be in a different position. Are you committed to that? You say you want to be the best leader ever. Are you committed to that? You say you desire to be in a healthy relationship. Are you committed to that? Commitment is so important. So when I say words, what are you saying you are committed to? And how can you use saying I am committed to ... as a mantra, something to hold you down when you start finding yourself not wanting to do it, right? So that actually happened to me this week, because I'm like, I'm committed to, reaching my revenue goal this year. And so I ran into a snag in my schedule, and I've been very regimented these last couple of weeks, just trying to be very focused on what I know is a revenue generating activity. And so with that being said, something came my way where it would have, taken me off my schedule of things. And I said, I am committed. I had to tell myself, I'm like, I am committed to this year. And so I just had to say no, or I just, change my mind of how things were going to be laid out, and all was well in the world. But I use that to help me mentally stay committed. And so maybe that's something that can work for you, is telling yourself, I am committed to this, when it's 5 in the morning or 7 in the morning or 7 at night, whatever time of day that you have articulated is best for you to do the things that are aligned to getting to your goal. And no matter how you feel, no matter what's going on, you're like, you know what, I am committed to this. And that doesn't mean do it when you're burnt out and things happen, right? We experience grief, we experience things happening to our body. This is not like this push past so that, you until you burn out kind of conversation. So let's be clear, because I am anti that. What I am for is that we allow our minds to make up excuses and make things harder than they really are. And things are not hard, it's a habit. We haven't created the habit to have this routine that automatically creates what we currently desire. We're doing that now. I'm creating habits so I can create systems that will help me get to my revenue goal this year. And so it can feel hard, but it's really not hard. It's a habit. It's a habit that I'm learning to create. And so that's what I have to keep telling myself too. It's not hard. It's a habit. Same thing I had to do when I went plant-based. So a lot of you may have known, especially if you follow me on LinkedIn, that I went plant-based last year. It'll be a year in March. And so when I went plant-based, the whole point was because I didn't want to be on medicine. I am too cute for that. Listen, I was like, no knock to anybody else, but I decided that Desiree was too cute, too young to be on nobody pill. I'm not doing that. When my doctor said you have high blood pressure or your blood pressure is high, you need to monitor it. And if you don't monitor it, we're going to put you on the pill. That's all I needed to hear. I was like, oh no, I'm committed. So let me look up what I need to look up to see what I need to change, because Desiree's changing that. So I was committed. It wasn't as hard as it could have been, but it was still hard because I love cheese. I'm from Wisconsin. And I had been living in Maryland for a couple of years. So I was eating seafood all the time, all the things. I was like, you know what? I'm committed. I'm about to be plant-based. That might not be what someone else has to do, but I know that was what was God was leading me to do. I know specifically that I heard that. And so I was like, okay, are we going plant-based? And so it was hard, air quotes, but it was just not a habit. That's all that was. It was like I had the habit of buying salmon. I had the habit of going to this restaurant. I had a habit of all these things. So it felt hard, but it's not hard. It's just not a habit yet. And so me telling myself that was very helpful, because now I know that, hey, it's not hard. It's just not a habit yet. And so I'm working on this habit. And so your words are going to help you stay committed to you. It seems so simplistic, but it's the small things that help you get to the big things. Literally, you telling yourself, I am committed to X, regardless of what's happening. Boom. Listen, you telling yourself it's not hard, it's just habit. Boom. That is going to be very helpful. Get around people that are using words that are aligned to who you are, and only talk to people that may be either accomplishing the same thing as you or are accomplishing things and also desire accountability. This is going to be really pinnacle. You almost have to put blinders on with things that you see that are not aligned to what you desire. And you also need to put earplugs in, like imaginary ones, if you will, because sometimes we are surrounded by people in our lives that are doing things and saying things that are not what we desire to do and say. And it makes us second guess ourselves subconsciously. It makes us second guess ourselves. And these people are people we love. These are people that we're around all the time, but they just might not be on what we're on. This is why it's important to also articulate to people in your life that this is something that you're desiring to do. And you might be doing things differently, or you might need this support from them. But, just be ready, because this is what you're doing this year. This might be important, especially with people that you're close to in your family. I will say that sometimes it might not align with you if you have family members or people that, I say air quotes close, but people that are just, close in proximity, but may not have the mindset or the same type of initiative as you. And if you feel like those are people that are going to try to talk you out of it, or they're only going to bring you negative energy, then you get to decide whether or not that's someone that you actually want to articulate your boundaries or your goals and such with. I will say, if you have a healthy relationship with family and people in your life, then tell them. They may not be looking to do the same things, but if you know that they're supportive, regardless of what you do, then I would say that it's not, a bad thing to say to them, because some people are like, oh, don't tell people anything. And I was like, I think that's subjective. I think you get to use wisdom on what you say. I don't subscribe to don't say anything and don't trust people, like That's a whole nother live, honestly. That's a whole nother live because, sometimes we honestly just need therapy. People need to go talk to someone because they've been so kind of just scarred, honestly, from just getting negative experiences with people that it's kind of like this distrust mode. And so if you're in that space, I am a believer in therapy. I have used therapy in my life. And so that's what you need. Go get that if you have some deep rooted issues there. In general, I think it's really important that you speak to people that you trust, and that will support you, and talking to them about what you desire to do, to not only, they may not necessarily be accountability, but they might be in your life, just so that they can know, this is why I'm not hanging out with you as much, because I'm working on this, or what have you. They can be supportive from that perspective as well. So your words, how are you using your words? What are you listening to? What are you watching? All of that. I think I talked about that in my last live. What are podcasts? What are books you're reading? What are things you're doing? Also with your words. So I'm going through this journey of 30 days to practice the habit of not complaining. I didn't know it was going to be this difficult because I don't consider myself someone that complains. But before I know it, I'm just like, why is this having to happen like this? Or why is this happening? I'm like, oh, Desiree, like, stop. Right. And this doesn't mean that you don't get to bring up issues that need to be dealt with. That is different than complaining. But you know what this means, and you get to know what that means for you. I also think it's really big on using your words about other people. Stop talking about other people. That is something that we take for granted because we're in social media, and we put our mouths on other people's lives that we don't really know. It's like news is not just for TV. News is on our phones from individuals that we may have not have seen in years, and we see things and we're judging them and we're saying things in our heads and even to each other, like, oh, did you see such and such a status? Right? Or we're thinking about things. Keep your mouth off of other people, because here's the thing: the things that you say about someone else usually is a reflection of something you're dealing with. I say usually because I don't think anything is 100%. Other times you get to ask yourself, like, is there something that they're doing that I don't desire to mirror anymore? Because it might be something there, or you might have some admiration with someone. You talking about them, but you probably wish you had that. And everybody want to say, oh, I'm never jealous, blah, blah, blah. No, we're human beings. You have envy and jealous sometimes. I'd had to even check myself when I would get annoyed with seeing someone's status and they're doing amazing things. But I think my annoyance is really admiration. I'm like, oh man, they really be putting themselves out there and I'm not doing that. So I'm annoyed. Like, why are we annoyed? Like, go do your stuff, get in your ish, and stop worrying about what other people are doing. And so really making sure you're keeping your mouth off of people and focusing inward. You don't get to judge other people's lives. You get to get yourself together, and that's what is very important. So that's whether in the workplace, like, oh, such and such, oh, they're having favoritism with that person, they're this. Get your mind and your all your words off of other people and focus inwardly. What do you actually desire? You might not even want. Half the time people are complaining about things that they don't even want. You don't even want that. What do you desire? Is it more you're looking at them because you're wishing and hoping that was you? Okay, well, get what you desire. Nobody has anything that is yours. Period. You can write that down. That's dropping the gem. Nobody has anything that's yours. There's more than enough. This is not a crab and bucket mentality. We all have enough to get. There's enough out here. God has created so many things out here. There's enough people, there's enough jobs, there's enough money, there's enough increase. If you are feeling like it's not enough, it's a perspective based on where you are right now. You might be in survival mode. You've been on this hamster wheel. You have created a habit of lack. You have created a habit of lack. You've created a habit of not getting what you desire. And so you are manifesting that. And so if that is where you are, you get to rewire your brain and know that there is enough. I want you to start looking for abundance. So staying committed to you in 2025, again, is going with this shift. How much am I willing to shift? Something that you can do with your words is start looking for the things that are aligned to getting to where you desire to go. So start looking for the goodness in your life. Start practicing gratefulness, right? Practicing like, this is happening for me. This is happening for me. This has happened for me, right? Because you need to rewire your mind from the habit of lack, the habit of things that are happening, the things happening to me, and honestly, having the habit of victimization. We get to be in control of what we can control. You can't control everything. No doubt. What can you control? I've been talking about this a lot, health in general a lot, because when it came to me healing myself from high blood pressure, it was because I heard God told me to do some things and I actually did them, because we can hear a whole bunch of stuff and don't do it, right? Taking action on it. The other part is that I knew that the things that I was required to do were in my control. It wasn't somebody else's fault, right? Because somebody could have like, oh, my job always has me out and I'm always got to eat out. It's just like, you actually don't. You could actually do some other things if you really desire to do it. And so sometimes we don't want to admit that we've allowed something to go a certain amount of time without getting done. And it's okay. Like, we don't have to beat ourselves up forever. It's just like, okay, just acknowledge it. Acknowledge that you allowed these different amount of things to happen without taking action, or you taking all these years before you decided to do something. It's fine. Just acknowledge it and move on. Versus sitting in it, and that's what keeps us from actually making the change that we need to make. And so I hope this is being helpful. Let me know in the chat if this is helping you. Let me know what resonates with you. In our next few minutes, as we we're almost there. We're almost closing up. I got a few more things I want to talk about with you all so we can stay committed. And so, who do we desire to be? What are we willing to do? What are the actions that we are willing to take is next? And so, the actions that you're willing to take, what are the behaviors? What are the actions on a daily basis? So again, what you desire to do is not hard, it's habit. And so what is it that you know is a behavior that you have been doing that is not helpful to what you now desire to have? And so if you can articulate and really think about what is the behavior, what's the behavior that you know is not helpful, and it's really not going to help you get what you desire to have. And once you think about that behavior, I want you to think about, well, what would be the new behavior? What would be the new behavior that would help you get more of what you desire to have in this upcoming year? When you want to stay committed to yourself, what would be that behavior? And then you get to think about, well, what is the small change, right? What is the small change that I can make with that behavior so that I can get closer to what I desire to have? And so I know one of the behaviors that I would exude sometimes when I would have a goal. Well, you know what? Let me use, plant-based eating. I want to give you something that's tangible. So I know that I desire to have like no high blood pressure, what normal. I was going to say low, no, normal high blood pressure, right? And so one of the things that I knew I needed to do was start working out. Now, I've always been an athlete. I'm a trained dancer. I've been a runner. I've done that, but I wasn't, to be real, because sometimes we were like, well, I'm doing that. Another thing from this book, that Millionaire Mind book that I mentioned before, it's just like in the book it says, people in poverty always talk about what they know. I was like, ooh, get me together. We always try to talk about what we know, but it's like, but if you knew it, why you don't have this yet? I'm like, you right. And so sometimes we just got to get out of our ego. It's like, okay, you know to do something, but did you do it? Did you really do it? So I would say like, oh, when I was still having, high blood pressure, I'd be like, oh, I am working out, but I was just taking walks, and I'm not saying something's wrong with taking walks. What I needed to do was get my heart rate up. I really needed to get a lot of the stress off of me. And that takes like a high energy workout, to get stress off of you. Like it's kind of like, who knows how long I had high blood pressure, y'all. It probably would have been a good year because, you only see a doctor like once a year. So it might've been a whole year from when I had it. And so doing a walk every day it's going to decrease, but it's not going to decrease with the acceleration that I needed to do by taking a walk. So I'm saying that to say, taking some of the actions that we take sometimes is not wrong. However, we can be misaligned with what outcome we actually want to see when we're taking actions that are, I don't want to say low level, because I do think any action is good, but I'll say low level in terms of what you could do. Does that make sense? When you could take a certain action and you don't do it because you don't feel like it, or what have you. And then we start looking for the outcome and we're like, we didn't get it. But it's like, well, you didn't really do the action that would get you the outcome quicker or in the way that you desired because of whatever excuse you came up with in your mind. And so with that being said, it's like, what is the behavior that you could do to help you get to your goal. And then ask yourself, are you willing? Because remember, if we're committed to the thing, we ought to be willing. You could still scaffold it, because I think scaffolding, giving yourself markers on how to increase something is actually very helpful. It's helpful to our brain. It keeps us from quitting and allows us to sustain a thing, but just being real with those markers. And so when it came to me working out, I was like, okay, I'm going to do the walking, but that's what I've been doing. And I'm still with high blood pressure, still feeling too angst to still feeling stressful and not getting it off me. Right. And so I was like, okay, we're going to start off with 1 30-minute, like get your hit workout, a week. And then I'll still, take my walks or whatever. And then I increased it to 2 times a week, 3 times a week. And so I'm at 3 times a week right now. My goal is to get back to 5 times a week. But the point is that I was doing something that was a behavior, but it's like, well, if I really want this goal to change, what am I willing to do? How can I change my behavior so I can get closer to my goal and my outcome, and not make this excuse of like, well, I'm already doing that, check the box. But it's like, well, check the box, but did you get to the goal though? Like, are you getting what you want to get? And so what actions, what behaviors in our everyday, and some of those behaviors might even be as small as how we are showing up. So I think that there's something about how your body is as it relates to what you think about yourself. And so if you like to read, you can read this book. It's a dense book in my opinion, but it is very informative. It's The Body Keeps Score. And in this book, The Body Keeps Score, the writer, he really uses the example of veterans and how they have experienced so many, horrific things in times that they were serving. When they actually come back to civilian life, how they're still experiencing those things as if it just happened, right? And when you experience things as if it just happened, your body doesn't know the difference. I mean, your mind doesn't know the difference. Your body is still reacting with anxiety. Your body is still reacting anger. Your body is still acting frustrated. So take this in consideration. We all know this, right? You ever been mad at somebody? Of course you have. And if you've been mad at someone, then you can be mad at them all over again if you start thinking about it again. So you start thinking about that thing again, you'll be mad for like 5 days, right? Or frustrated or sad, right? We've experienced grief over the course of our lives. You start thinking about the experience you had with someone, and you can experience that grief like it was yesterday, all over again. And so this is really key when you're thinking about changing your habits or being committed to you. Sometimes we can relive failure. We can relive not having something or desiring something and not getting it. When we do that to ourselves, we recreate the experience, and it can really talk ourselves out of what we desire to have now. And so you get to, I don't know who said this, but I do like the way they said it. You get to mind your mind. But mind your mind in the way that your body feels. So I really encourage my clients to see what they feel when they're experiencing something. So start taking note of what's happening in your body, right? Like, oh, my shoulders are tight, or I feel, like a sunken feeling in my chest, or my stomach is bothering me, or I have a headache, or, I feel stiff, like I feel fatigued. These are things that are going to help you, because some of these feelings are only a result of you having an experience in your mind about something that's happened before, and you're almost making it happen again, even though it's a whole different topic, it's a whole different goal, it's a whole different thing. We can desire to be a keynote speaker, and the thing that's holding us back is the one time in band camp when we went to go speak somewhere as a kid and they booed us off the stage. You know what I'm saying? And so we can relive that and be like, no, I don't want to do it. It's just like, whoa, what's going on? Right? Like, what are you feeling? Like, what are we talking about here? Right? And so I want you to get really acquainted with your body. Or, one time I was coaching someone, and she was working with a team. She's a manager working with a team of people, and she really desired to be a bolder leader. She was already a really good mentor leader, but she wanted to be a bolder leader in the sense of helping her team have better leadership skills so that they can do things without her. What she found herself doing mostly was working with her team and really helping them navigate some of their disappointments, or navigating some things that they were dealing with personally. And so she was a great mentor boss, but she wanted to be better at really helping them get, really solid in the skills that would help them excel in their workplace, which means she would need to up level how she's showing up with them with this sense of executive presence, or this sense of confidence that would help really exude to them that, hey, I believe in you. This is what you get to do. Let me hold you to that, and doing it from that place versus, anything else. And so with that being said, I noticed that she said she wanted to be bolder, but she was talking like this. She's like, yeah, I really want to be bold. I want to be more confident. And I was like, hey, do you notice how you're sitting right now as you're telling me about being bold? And then she sat up. She was like, ooh. But sometimes our body will tell on us, right? We say we desire a thing, but how are we positioning ourselves? And so I want you to get um, really aware of how your body is reacting. So even when I'm coaching some people now, they'll say that they want to start their business, but they say it in a real hesitant way. And I'm like, is that what you really want? Or what is that right there? Like, what's the hesitancy, right? Because if you really desire the thing, you would be saying it a lot more. You would say it differently, or your energy would be differently. This is not about being loud or being what have you, but it is noticing what's happening in your body. And we do it, but we have not been trained on how to notice it more often. The more that you can notice these things, it's going to be a game changer for you. You're going to know when you are hesitating and you need to say no to something, right? Because there's something that's keeping you from going all in on a thing. You're going to notice it with just how you feel in your body. Sometimes we don't even realize that we're experiencing anxiety or something is happening on the inside, because we're so used to going, ignoring how our body is feeling and just moving forward without thinking about it. And so I really want you to consider these things as you want to be committed more to who you are in 2025 and what you desire. So as we're about to wrap up, I really want to just kind of like give you what I just said, right? So we're going to be committed to what we desire to do, because I'm looking at my notes to remind me, because I want you to think about what feelings are you really looking to get from the outcomes of what you desire, right? I want you to think about what you are willing to be. Who are you willing to shift into so that you can have what you desire? I want you to think about what words can you use. Can you tell yourself, I am committed to this, every time you see yourself using excuses? Can you use that mantra that, hey, it's just a habit. This is not hard. It's just a habit. You can give yourself forgiveness because you're learning something new, right? How can you put yourself around people that are talking differently, moving differently, getting into community that is going to help you stay accountable to yourself and to your goals that you have? How can you make sure that you are identifying behaviors that no longer serve you? And how can you make sure that you are doing those behaviors less or not at all, and doing more of the behaviors that are going to benefit you in your goals? And some of that behavior gets some of that behavior is going to come from you understanding what's going on in your body. Sometimes we don't even realize that we're on automatic. We don't realize that we are reliving past experiences that are not allowing us to move forward in our lives. So just notice, where is that coming from? Who told me to do that? These are great questions to ask yourself. Where is that coming from? Who told me to do that? What's my hesitation? All of these things. And these things take time. I've had the opportunity to practice over time, asking myself these questions. I've learned so much because I'm coaching other people, other leaders, other executives, other professionals, how to notice this about themselves. And so it's helped me get better at it. And so you get to be okay with the time that it takes for you to take that on. Just take a moment and just ask yourself those things when you feel yourself not going forward, right? And what it's going to do, it's going to collapse time in the sense that you won't spend as much time overthinking, worrying about stuff, because you'll notice it. And instead of it being like a week or months, it'll be less time. I feel like I've gotten to a place where I have less time that I'm wasting in between the things that I desire, because I'm way more aware of who I am and what I would sometimes grab onto to keep me from doing something. We all know our own stuff. It's just like, oh, when this happens, it makes me not want to do something. So it's just like, okay, well, let's reframe that. Like, how can you just know what it is so you can start being mobile. And it's like, you already you know what it is. So it's like, okay, let's move past this, or deal with it if necessary, if you haven't, so that you can move past it and not have it come up so frequently for yourself. And so the next thing, which is I think the last thing for us, is that really just making sure you're getting community for accountability. Now, I really believe in self accountability, because if you don't trust yourself, if you're not keeping promises to yourself, you're not going to keep promises to someone else. Now, I used to say this, and I still kind of believe it. I would say, like, yo, if somebody wants me to do something, I'm probably more likely to get it done than when I say it for myself. But that's not necessarily true, because if I wanted to be trifling and not do something after someone asked me to do it, I could not do it. Right. And so there's something that is in me to accomplish something without needing nobody else to be present for me to do it. And so think about the things that you've accomplished apart from another person. Now, you may have done those things because externally you wanted validation from other people. Like, some of us got good grades because we didn't want to hear our parents tripping off on us. And so that's what we did. Or we're afraid of our boss and our team looking at us a certain way. So even though we did it without them, needing their accountability, we did it because we wanted people to feel like they can count on us. There are other things, though, that you do with other forms of validation or other forms of rewards, right? And so we have good hygiene. Maybe it's because we don't want anybody else to say that you stink, right? That your breath is smelly, whatever. At the same time, a lot of times we're doing things because we have this feeling that if we get it done, it's going to make us feel better about ourselves. And so when we have this feeling of doing things that make us feel better about ourselves, it allows us to be more attentive to those things. And now we're doing it because we're keeping a promise to ourselves. It makes us feel good. So I want you to consider, how can you keep more promises to yourself? How can you be more trustworthy to yourself? And then as a result, you also have this community that you're allowing to give you the accountability to stay on track with those goals. Because sometimes we have people in our lives and we don't allow them because we don't want to feel bad for not getting something done, or we feel attacked, right? Right. And this is perspective. Right now, if you have people in your life that are yelling at you and things like that, and that doesn't feel good to you, that's one thing. But sometimes they're not really attacking, especially if you know the heart of people. They're doing it to help you have a mirror up to yourself of what you said you desire to do. And so being comfortable, being in a space to be able to have that, so that you can, grow and have a community of people that you really can have next to you to help you along the way that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And so if you liked what you heard today, please share all the things, drop in the chat, show me some love in the chat. I definitely want you all to know, if you want more of what I'm saying and things like that, you can go to my website, and that's desireecocroft.com. And you can sign up for my newsletter. I'm going to have an awesome free training that I've been working on that you will be able to take advantage of, called How to Collapse Time. I think that this is a big one, especially when we feel like we have lost, air quotes, time on some of the things that we desire to do, and we just get more focused on how can we collapse time. And some of the things I talked about today help you collapse time. When you get committed to a thing, you don't waste time anymore. You decide to get those things done. That's a sense of collapsing time. I collapse time with overcoming high blood pressure. Like, I could have been on the pill, and then I could have decided years from now, like, oh, I want to come off of it, which is fine. But I collapsed time. I was like, I'm not waiting no longer. This is what is happening, or what have you. So this is what's happening. I've not made the amount I could make in my business because I decided not to collapse time. I did for the first, couple months of my business, and then I got caught up with work. And then I got caught up, honestly, in not feeling like what I desired to do was good enough. And it was a scarcity mindset that not enough people are going to enjoy what I do and what I bring and what I offer. And so I talked myself out of it. And so years went by without me making revenue the way I am now in my business, because I was overthinking. I was talking myself out of it. And so now I'm like, nope, I'm not going years anymore. I'm not allowing years to go by. So I have learned to really get into this habit of, when I find myself like that, collapsing time, like, nope, we're not doing that. So I'll have a free training. I'm working on it right now. I actually just recorded it this week, so I'm getting some edits done. So it'll be available. So if you go to my website and you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll be one of the first people to know about it. So you can sign up for it. And I would love, love, love to see you there. Again, I am Desiree Cocroft. I am an executive life and leadership coach. and I am your Get Your Life coach. I love helping high achieving women, especially those that are overcoming people pleasing, those that are high achievers and have been a hyperachiever, and you in this hamster wheel, in this hustle mode, always trying to get things done, but you haven't gotten back to yourself. And I desire to help people get back to themselves so they can fulfill their fullest potential and have the life they want, the money that they desire, as well as being bold in every area of their life. If that sounds like you, then you're a perfect fit for my community. So I look forward to seeing you then. I hope you enjoy the first weekend of the new year. Yay! And connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't already, and all other platforms. And I look forward to seeing